Hello, art groupies. So excited to get started with you. Thought it would be a good idea if we talked a little bit about materials before we go too far into this. So if you haven't already filled out the Google form that is on Schoology, right in our art groupies page there, that would be great. About half of you have filled it out so far. And what was really nice is to know that most people that are signed up for it, almost everybody had colored pencils, markers, and crayons, which is awesome. I actually don't have crayons. I have some oil pastels. I can't believe I don't have crayons at home, but I don't. It's one of those things. I went looking for them. I didn't have them. So that's something that that's great, that if everybody has one or all of those, that's really, really great. Something that would be great for you to try to get your hands on, about half of you so far said that you had watercolors of some type. Getting a watercolor tray would be great. So if this is just a simple watercolor tray, a lot of them come with brushes, which is handy for having one. And if you don't have watercolor sets like this, if you have old dried up markers, this is something you can do. I started with this about 30 minutes ago, this Crayola marker, and just about an inch of water, and it's slowly turning into liquid watercolor paint, which is great. I'm gonna leave it for the whole day and see how dark it gets. It takes a while. It doesn't happen right away. So you wanna give it like a good day because it's gotta soak all the way up into the top of the marker and pull all that, that ink out into your color. But that can be kind of nice. A lot of people marked that they didn't have paintbrushes. And if you don't have paintbrushes, that's, if you have one, that's great. But if you don't, maybe ask around, because a lot of times you don't realize there is one someplace in the house or a couple of them. But I've been asked before what kind of paintbrushes are nice to have. This is a good group right here. This is one that I just got on a watercolor set. And then I've got here some round brushes. These are number 6s. I think I have a number 8, a number 4, and then a couple of flat brushes here. And then this little drawing brush here is really handy. So if you can have a group of those, and that's a good way to build up a set, that would be awesome. When we get to painting, if you have a couple paint palettes, this would be the perfect kind of paint palette, and I use these at home. This is the cheapest, freest kind. It's just lids from doing your, from anything. This is some Cool Whip lids and just any kind of random lid. I like white ones. So if you have like cottage cheese, sour cream lids, those are perfect. So try to snag those from recycling before they get taken. Styrofoam works great. You don't want to use a paper plate because that just absorbs up all your paint and then it wastes it for you. But any kind of non-absorbent surface works basically. Also, scissors everybody seemed to have, and I would start collecting some pieces of cardboard. The best cardboard is a pizza box top because it's pretty thin and it's easy to cut. These are some average scissors, and you want to be careful cutting cardboard with these because these are really not intended for cardboard. So you can break your scissors and then you don't have them. But if you happen to have a pair of kitchen scissors at home, these are perfect for cardboard because they come apart. You can't break these. So this is what I recommend if you have them cutting cardboard. Just make sure you're asking first. And what I'd like to do then is get started doing some warm-ups. So if you've had me as a teacher before, I talk a lot about muscle memory and how art is building up your muscle memory, your hand strength, and your hand muscle memory, along with your brain, your creative muscle memory. So I'm going to start by warming up, and I'm just going to use some of the materials I have here and just some small paper. So this is what I do every time before I start doing art at home. I just start kind of getting my hands warmed up and I sketch a little bit. And I tend to be an abstract person, so I sketch abstract, like simple shape things. And if you notice, I'm starting by using my wrist a little bit, and then I like to have bigger paper and get working with my whole arm. So making my wrist a little firmer and starting to draw with my arm instead of my wrist. In school, I've always said that a lot of times you come into class and you draw small because you're used to using your wrist all day. You got to get that wrist nice and straight and start going into some bigger shapes and using that whole arm and getting that arm part of, get the development of your arm as part of your muscle memory. I'm going to switch over to some oil pastel. and see about mixing some different materials. Kind of always love to test the limits of my materials when I'm going to start something new or I haven't been working with certain materials for a while. So I'm going to start here by just kind of playing around with the oil pastels and the colored pencils. If you don't have oil pastels, use your crayons. Again, I was planning on using crayons today, but I don't have any crayons. I can't believe it. So just kind of play around and see how those things mix on different surfaces. I might switch over to a piece of cardboard and try this. One thing I want you to try too is we have colored pencils and crayons or oil pastels that do change with the pressure when you're coloring. So I'm going to start doing some light to dark on different colors. And at your age, we're starting to try to push you to try to draw more form, three-dimensional shapes. And that means that you need to practice some lights to darks. I'm going to try this on brown actually. So if I take this oil pastel and I start coloring really hard, and then I start going lighter, lighten up my pressure, softer, 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 softer. So you want to have the contrast of really heavy, the dark, to the super light. It's kind of hard on there. Let's see if I can get a different color. And we've done some blending. If you've had Mrs. RZ and I, we have already probably done a little bit of this with you, but this is something that takes a little time and practice. This is a muscle memory that we really want you to develop, is the light to dark and having all those in-betweens there so that we can really have some fun with drawing. The one thing about markers, I know you love markers because everybody wants to grab markers and draw and color with them. But if you notice, if I take this marker and color in this shape, it is one flat color. There's no light to dark ever with a marker. So if you want to really work with form, three-dimensional highlight and shadow, you're gonna have to get pretty comfortable doing that light to dark. And you can do it with, like I said, I did the oil pastel. You can do the same thing with colored pencil and crayon. But it just takes a little bit of getting used to softly lightening up your pressure and getting there so that you can have that. And then once you really have that, that area, that gray area that you're trying to do, that really like in between, that's when you start having your shapes and things that you're drawing really pop out. So anyway, that's what I'm doing today. I'm kind of playing around and practicing, kind of warming up, building some muscle memory for getting ready on some real projects. And I'm actually going to keep going. I'm going to hopefully have a few actual projects for you that I am planning to teach. I know Mrs. RZ is planning some things, and we'll be posting some really cool ideas that some of our friends who are art teachers or artists that we really like and admire for you to be inspired by. So hope you're having fun. First, do your homework. Do your homework first. Then start getting into all of our art groupie stuff. So looking forward to talking to you and showing you some stuff again. We'll see ya.